Hello and welcome to the first Grim Dawn build guide on this channel. So this video is going to be split into two halves. The first half I'm just going to go over the skills, devotions and equipment for this build here, and in the second half we're going to run through Shattered Realm 75 to 76. There'll be no commentary there. I'm just trying to show off how the build performs. So what is this build? It is a poison / bleed pet ritualist. It's very, very good at Shattered Realm, 75, 76, so big gear farming. It has done Shattered Realm 80, but only once, haven't done it since. This build has also beat Ravager of Flesh. Did it first try, but we'll go into how that went in just a bit. Spoilers, it didn't go super great. Other than that, I would say the build is not particularly difficult to play. It is a Grim Dawn pet build, so you know how they go. So with that, yeah, let's get into the skills. So since this is a poison and bleed pet build, I wanted pets that had poison and bleed on them. So naturally I went for a Brython with its auto attacks having bleed, as well as Ground Slam, Primal Spirit with its auto attacks having bleed, and Tail Strike having poison, which can also cause the bleed from Claw and Fang. And then of course Blight Fiend, which has a bunch of poison damage as well, on everything it does. To facilitate doing the most poison and bleed damage possible, I went for things naturally that boost those two damage types. So Primal Bond gives you flat bleed, all damage, and a ton of crit damage, which by the way we're going to be stacking a lot of crit damage on this build. Then we've got Call for Grave, more crit damage, more all damage. I've only got 1 point in Soul Harvest. I'll get to that in a bit. That's for why I did that. But for now, just see, it gives us Vitality damage flat, which is going to be converted to acid on Blight Fiend, and it gives us some all damage. Lastly, on the damage side of things, we've got Devouring Swarm. Now, the base skill only decreases bleed res, also vitality, but no one cares about that. It decreases bleed res. But thanks to our gear, it's also going to be decreasing poison and acid resistance by 35%. So that's pretty sick. The only other thing I have for damage is Mugdragon's Pact. And this is kind of where it gets weird. I picked up Mugdragon's Pact because it gives flat physical damage and health regen. As you will likely see in the Shattered Realm portion of this video, the pets on this build have very, very little sustain. Okay? The health regen here goes some way, a small way, to rectifying that. But importantly, all of that flat physical damage is going to be converted to acid for your Brython and your Blight Fiend. And it's going to be pretty good. Outside of damage, right, the rest of our survivability comes from Wendigo Totem and Heart of the Wild. Now, Wendigo Totem, you know how it works. It heals percentage of health plus a flat amount, and Blood Pact gives your pet's attack damage converted to health. Super good. Now, I didn't just stop at 15 because it's the cap, although I wouldn't have a choice, I guess. At 14 points you get 6%, 15 points you get 7%, so the extra point just made sense. Likewise, with Blood Pact, 1 plus 3 puts you at 4 out of 12, which gets you 5% attack damage converted to health. Just 1 extra point gets me another percentage, so that's why I'm stopping right there at 5 out of 12. Heart of the Wild increases the pet's health which means Wendigo Totem is going to heal them more. And again, I cannot stress enough, they really, really need it. Yeah, so if you look at my quest list here, you can see I haven't killed Korvac yet, and I just got to the resistance camp in Malmouth. So I'm actually missing 2 skill points. They're just going to go here in Heart of the Wild, because again, they really, really, really need the sustain, and that's that. I guess lastly, I put 1 into Oakskin. This is more than enough to cap your own resistances. I suppose you could get more for the pets, but I believe that you only need Pierce Resist on this build, or yeah, Pierce Resist from this on this build, I will believe. But we can check in a sec. So, why do I not get Soul Harvest? Honestly, the decision came down to putting points into Soul Harvest and putting points into, well, Heart of the Wild / Mogdragon's Pact. I used to have this at 20 out of 12, but I just took all the points out, put them here and here. I just felt they were serving more of a purpose. Soul Harvest does give all damage, which is super useful. Don't want to take that away from it. But the vitality damage isn't going to be that great. Like, it's going to go through your all damage bonuses, so it's going to be good on some level. But only your Blight Fiend is going to actually convert that to acid and get, most of your bonuses. So yeah, personally, I don't really care for Soul Harvest on this build. But, if you find that you're not worried about sustain at all, you could drop. I used to have Heart of the Wild at just 1 point investment, right? And it was good. It was fine. So you could totally do that. You could drop points out of this. Same thing. If you felt that you wanted this, I guess. But I don't really care. It doesn't mean anything to me. The only other skill that I picked up is Siphon Souls. Obviously, usually this would be a heal for your character. We definitely don't need it for that. And either way, it wouldn't be a good heal. Right? We don't convert the vitality to acid for ourselves. And even then, we don't have a ton of acid damage if we could. What this is here for is to proc Bisnill's command, as you can see, but also because we're using a piece of gear that is going to make Siphon Souls reduce the enemy's acid resistance. So it's pretty sick. Devotions are they're pretty offensively leaning. I've already talked about the lack of sustain on this build, and it's going to be a running theme. Of course we could spec into things like Healing Rain, or even Stag instead of Panther, for extra health for our pets and healing. But honestly, it's not a huge deal. As long as the summons are ready to be resummoned after they die, it's fine. It's fine by me to just go full offensive. The only defensive thing I spec into is the Behemoth, because there are some things in here, we get extra health for pets, and we get increased health regen. Other than that, which no one cares about because it's defensive. Who cares about defenses? We go full offensive. We go for Shepherd's Call for, again, extra crit damage and all damage. Go for Rend, which is going to lower bleed res. We go for Howling Dragon for extra bleed damage and away, which is going to do what? Give us more crit damage and crit chance. We go for Acid Spray, not for the reduction in target's resistances, because we're actually going to be getting that somewhere else, but really because the Constellation actually gives us offensive ability, health, poison damage, then flat poison damage, and then Acid Spray is just like a bonus, right? Bismiel's command. The pet here actually does, it doesn't say it on here, but it has a poison breath attack, so it actually does apply a poison that will stack. And then Bismiel's Bonds gives you a flat physical damage, which is going to get converted to acid. Other than that, Typhos, it's a classic. Really, I don't really think about this one too much. Yes, there's OA, yes, there's crit damage. Same with Toad. They're just there, really, to meet affinity requirements. But the bonuses they give are nice to have. Now for the equipment. So, naturally, being an acid or a poison pet build, this build revolves around goal set. Here it is, the 4-piece. Got the chest, shoulders, gloves, and the medal. The medal is going to give Blight Fiend and Briarthorn some flat poison. It's going to convert the vitality damage on Blight Fiend to acid, which is super good. The gloves are going to give us the Eldritch Webweaver. It's important to note that Webweaver spawns when you crit. It spawns 100% of the time, which is fantastic, but we don't have a lot of crit damage. We have very little, actually, or crit chance rather. My OA is in the garbage, let's put it nicely. So it spawns often enough, mainly because the skills that we do use are AoE, right? We got Bone Harvest, Siphon Souls, and Devouring Swarm, right? We're going to hit a ton of enemies. But against bosses, don't be surprised when these aren't spawning like wildfire. Other than that, there's two other important things to note about goal set. First, you get Summon Eldritch Talon, which is this little guy right here. It does poison acid damage, which is great, but importantly, it has an aura that lowers acid resistance. So it's very important to just have this guy up. The set also gives you an extra Blight Fiend. Devouring Swarm reduces acid res, which is sick. But the reason why we don't need Acid Spray from the Devotions for the resist reduction is because right there, Mogdragon's Pact lowers enemy resistances. So all my pets already have the same amount of flat resistance reduction that Acid Spray would give me. So I don't actually need Acid Spray for that. But I just want the rest of the constellation. And Acid Spray, as I said, is just a bonus. Other important pieces of gear. First, Night Shard, right? Has no pet bonuses at all, but gives Devouring Swarm an extra 15% resistance reduction to acid, and you get 10% on Siphon Souls. Again, I was already picking up Siphon Souls to proc Devotions, so using the shield was just it was already a no-brainer. It is now like a negative brainer, I suppose. The other thing that's super important, Scorpius Pummeler. You've seen all the crit damage we're stacking even more. We've got 50% to Briarthorn, 50% to Blight Fiend, and super important, we convert all the acid damage or all the physical damage to acid on both of these pets. As you can see, goal set doesn't even do that, right? Scorpius Pummeler is a must. It's the only reason why we spec so heavily into Mogdragon's Pact. Now, as for affixes, in the description, you're not going to see any affixes on the Scorpius Pummeler in the Grimtooth link that I post, because I don't believe in posting links with affixes unless I'm doing some weird build. This obviously isn't the best roll, right? I've got Bestial Rage, which is super good for this build. I'm actually getting extra points to Brythorn because of it, but Poisoned isn't very good at all on this build, since we don't actually do any poison damage ourselves. But it's fine, I guess. As for the bleed side of stuff, right, there's a lot of poison acid stuff there. We've got Heartless Sinking, which you can actually hear, right? It gives flat 75 flat bleeding damage to all my pets, right? But it also gives flat bleeding damage to Mugdragon's Pact, which spreads to all my allies, which are pets, right? So it actually gives them more than that 75 there, which is super good. And then, of course, Nosferatus. You can't really make a pet bleed build and not use Nosferatus. Yeah, gives points to Mugdragon's Pact, which is obviously giving more acid damage. Emboldening Presence, which I didn't even really go over. Gives me flat OA, which is increasing my crit chance, crit damage. Again, no brainer. Helmet's kind of weird. There is another helmet. I don't remember what it's called. I can't really remember why I don't like it. I think it was just a matter of I couldn't max out the skills the way I wanted to with the helmet on. So I prefer to use this one. This does reduce the cooldown of Call the Grave, which is good, and the cooldown of Summon Blight Fiend. That's also good. Is it less good? Definitely, because we're not using Unstable Anomaly. I tried to use it. It was good, but not great. So yeah, that's why we use this one. Boots, Fiend Flash Greaves, pretty standard for pet build. Same with the Wildstrom Leg Guards. Eagle's Ichor. There's literally no reason. There might be a reason. You know, I think there's like one or two other Poison Acid pet rings. Of course, there's Brythorn bands if you want more bleed, but I don't know. These already give me extra bleed, you know, with the points to Power Bond. These to me, I'm saying no-brainer a lot, but that's kind of because it is. So they're there. The last thing for equipment is Mugdragon's Adder. This now gives flat physical damage. It was an unexpected buff for this patch, but I'll take it. Right, that's extra acid damage for my pets. Honestly, I would love to use Swarmlings, right? Primal Instinct. But like, why do the bugs deal fire damage? They're bugs. Let them do acid damage. You know what I mean? So yeah. Thematically, it doesn't make sense to me. So that's that. So yeah, those are my skills, devotions, and equipment. So next, we're going to run through Shattered Realm, 75 to 76, and we'll see how it goes. It's probably going to go pretty well. Let's just get a little silly stone. Okay, so for this next section of the video, as I said, there's going to be no commentary, but I might come back after this Shattered Realm run is done to talk about it a little. We'll see. So for now, see ya, and have a nice day. Love you. Bye. Whatever. I don't know how to end this. Goodbye.
Well done. This poor...
Okay, so that was the SR run. I don't really feel like I showed off the poor sustain that well. There was a moment caught between some crystals that kind of messed me up a little bit. Well, messed the pets up anyway. But usually, I would say you might run into like certain bosses. Definitely against Ravager. I did allude to a Ravager fight I did have. Was able to beat him first try, but a lot of resummoning went down. The pets were not able to tank those blood pools. One thing you will have noticed though against certain bosses, and this just goes really for any pet build, I definitely like to use pet attack a lot to move them around. When Moosey has his little ice crystals up, I like to move the pets away. When Benjar has his little bombs up, I tend to just leave them. They don't really worry me at all. But getting CC'd is just the worst. Yeah, other than that, there wasn't really much to say. As you can see, the build handles SR pretty easily. Again, have not tried it in the Crucible. I don't really play Crucible. I haven't in years, so I can't say how well it does there, but it does well enough here for me. So yeah, that's it. This is my first commentary video. I don't really like to hear my voice. Well, not at home, I guess. Yeah, I talk for a living, but yeah, this is kind of weird. There was a comment that someone left on my last upload saying that, you know, the lack of commentary or sound was pretty bad, and I have to agree, it's pretty shit. And that's why I made this. I will probably make another build guide at some point in the future, not too far in the future, I hope. Please, if there's anything I can do, and I'm sure there'll be an exhaustive list of things I can do to make these better, let me know. I'm a fast learner. If I need to learn some editing software, I could probably pick that up too. Other than that, yeah, thanks for watching, I guess. What do I say? Or how do I sign off? This is J9, your Lord and Savior, signing off. See ya.